Hockey Hall of Famer. Of course, you saw him doing a TV analyst in the NHL playoffs. Chris Pronger joins us. Prongs, how you doing?
Great, Jason. Thank you. Yourself? Ready
good,
for some action?
Oh, I am. Yeah, free agency. Well, hey, for you, I want to kind of what you kind of stepped away from the game for a bit, and now you're back in on the media side of things. What brought you back? What piqued your interest to want to come back in?
I think just as I started building up my speaking platform, there was a kind of an opening in walking people through kind of what's going on in the league, being the person that's able to explain and articulate the behind the scenes stuff, the little intricacies of whether it's playing defense, whether it's, what forwards are doing, what they're trying to do with respect to their game plans, and why this team on paper doesn't necessarily look as good as the other team, but they're able to win, and kind of get into the nuance and of the gamesmanship and the different things that kind of take place throughout the course of a season, a playoff series, or a Stanley Cup victory, what have you.
So let's get into it now. We'll get to free agency, but before, I want to talk about, because we see Jonathan Toews, he comes back after 2 years from long COVID. We saw Gabriel Landeskog be out 2 years and then returns to the playoffs, which is crazy. And there's the announcement today, Alex Pietrangelo probably going to miss the whole year, maybe longer. So who knows, how long he's out. Maybe it's a career. You never know, like Carey Price. You were a guy who had his career ended, before you wanted it to. Now, it was an eye injury, so a little bit different, but did you battle with thinking, hey, I can come back, or did you know right away, like, I'm done?
No, I knew in consultation with the doctors and talking with Mr. Snyder, and I didn't know right away. Like, I came back and played 5 games. I tried to play through it, and it just, the symptoms were getting worse with respect to my concussion. I thought, initially when I got hurt, we thought it was an eye injury, which it was. But then, as you start peeling back the layers, I had a vestibular concussion, and just, the accumulation over an 18, 19-year career, things kind of caught up to me. And then, as I said, I tried to play 5 games, the last one being in Winnipeg, their first year back. I mean, it was so loud and crazy in that building, and just everything just got magnified. And stepped away, went and met with a couple different doctors, landed with Mickey Collins and Dr. Collins and Dr. Maroon at UPMC in Pittsburgh. And actually Crosby was going through his issues at the same time. And we had the same docs, and just trying to get an understanding on, I'd had a lot of injuries over the course of my career. At that point, I'd had 13 surgeries, and then the head stuff and the eye injury, and just trying to figure out getting my eye to focus properly, which now I got to wear the goggles. And it took a toll. Like, as I figured out, okay, I'm done. And they kind of walked me through the ramifications, and Dr. Collins was great. He just said to me, like, you're done. Like, I'm looking at your file. It's like this big. And he's like, listen, you're done. You I'm taking you off the hook. You don't have to make this decision. You're done. Like, you're not going to be able to come back from this, which I appreciate. You try, which I did, and made things a little bit worse. And then ultimately, he had to step in, and thankfully kind of walk me through everything. And it took a couple years of solid rehab to get my eye at least back to functioning as best as it can. And then, started kind of working on my body, trying to get my body fixed. Had a couple more knee surgeries. Then I had a knee replacement. So ultimately things were probably going to wind down anyways. But as to your point, the first couple of years when I was watching the Flyers at that point, I'm watching it as if I'm a player, and watching it as if, like, that would not happen if I was out there. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? On and on and on. And by I turned 40, and I'm like, okay, this game is way too fast. There's no way I could come back and play. And at that point, I kind of washed my hands of it, and I'm like, okay, I need to look at it from a different lens as how I can help these guys get better, how I can help them develop, and kind of turn the page on my career, and then try to help others improve and develop and mature as their own players.
I've talked to a lot of guys who are retired. For some of them, depends on who they are. Like, they feel lost for a little bit because you've been a player for so long and you feel that's your identity. Did you struggle with that for a bit? And then how did you kind of get over that?
I think initially I didn't, because I was so focused on my rehab and just trying to get my eye fixed and focused on my concussions and just trying to live a more normal life post playing. And then, after what you think you wanted to do, like I was always thinking I wanted to do something in the game and with a team, etc. And started going down that path, worked at the NHL, the Department of Player Safety, and then I worked for the Florida Panthers, senior advisor to Dale Talon in Florida. And, it just wasn't for me. You think it's going to be for you. You think you want to do it and you go down that path and it wasn't a fit. And so, I stepped away. I started doing my own stuff, trying to figure that out. So yes, you do struggle with identity after that because everything is kind of tied to hockey. I always tried to not be Chris, the hockey player, and just try to have outside endeavors and things of that nature that were going to take my attention and focus away from hockey 24/7 and kind of give myself a break. And then as I started to really kind of dig into what I wanted to do next, where I was going to make the most impact, where I thought I could, leave a lasting legacy and really try to help people both in hockey and outside of hockey, with everything that I've been through over the course of my career, my life. In a lot of my talks, I think people see my career now and they see all the accolades and the Hall of Fame and trophies and rings and different things, and they think it was easy. And it was anything but easy. And there were a lot of inflection points throughout the course of my career. Early on, obviously booed on home ice for 3+ years, which is not easy as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of that famous word potential.
Yeah.
And is he ever going to live up to it? Is he ever going to get it? Is, on and on and on. So, for me, I try to peel back that onion layer and really walk people through, whether it be their athletes, whether it be their business people, entrepreneurs, what have you, the process and the commitment it takes and the discipline and the sacrifice and the consistency to improve each and every day. It may take you 2 years. It may take you 10 years to ultimately accomplish whatever goal that is. And you have to have good habits. You have to be disciplined, and you have to be consistent in what you want and what you're willing to do to be successful.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned management, then we'll get into what's going on in the world. What was it about management that just didn't appeal to you at that time in Florida?
I just, when you're brought in for your opinion, it's never taken.
No.
I mean, why am I here?
Right.
Ultimately, and I think just at the time, Florida was just going through a growth. There was a lot of bodies there. Louis had just retired, and there was just a bunch of different guys, and the writing was on the wall. I'm smart enough to realize where things are headed, and I wasn't moving to Florida. I lived in St. Louis and was doing a lot of different scouting and different things, and pro scouting out of St. Louis and traveling to different parts, Ontario and college and different places to scout players. And ultimately just, it wasn't a fit for me. I didn't want to do that anymore, and had been immersed in hockey for 30+ years and just wanted to do something different.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Well, now you're back in, so let's get into it. It's the day before free agency, and for the first year in a while, there's a lot of cap space available in free agency. I've had many GMs tell me that insanity reigns on July 1st. Now, did you ever make it? I don't think you did, right? Like, do you regret that? Or was you're like, hey, I made lots of money, it's no big deal. But did you ever regret saying, God, it would have been nice just to see how a July 1st would have been for Chris Pronger?
Yeah, it was. There was a few things. Just so you know, I do have a book coming out in April.
Okay.
It may touch on some of this stuff.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, yes and no. I mean, I'm happy with kind of where I'm at. I obviously Edmonton, I signed a long-term deal. That's in the book. I thought coming out of the lockout, I was going to become a free agent based on everything that transpired during the course of the lockout and my age and everything, there were 3 players that should have become free agents: myself, Marty St. Louis, and Sergei Gonchar. And they decided to roll over free agency 1 year and start. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't
3 of
remember
us
that.
got screwed. Oh yeah. No, because it wasn't talked about. Because
Wow.
nobody gives a crap, because it was only us 3. And there were 7, and people just wanted to play hockey, which I get. But they should have cut free agency right out of the gate. But they they gave it a moratorium, if you will, of coming out. So I was expecting to become a free agent.
Okay.
And I didn't become a free agent. So there's obviously a ton more to it. But the 3 of us kind of we all 3 thought we were going to become free agents, and we weren't.
Wow. Okay. Well, geez, that's odd. There's not many guys who could say, "Hey, I'm coming to free agency, and now I'm not a free agent."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was my assumption, that as the CBA, the details of the CBA were being worked on, my understanding was that free agency was going to be lowered. But it should have been lowered right out of the gate. If you're doing a new CBA, shouldn't it start right away?
Yeah.
I mean, it should.
Yeah.
It should immediately begin at the right number, which I would have fell on.
Okay.
But,
so then they rolled it back a year later.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny now. The CBA just got announced this weekend, 15 months in advance, which has never, ever been the case before that I can ever recall since I've been working in the NHL for over 20 years, that they agreed to it 15 months before it even begins, which is nuts. But with all that money,
but they also wanted to get a lot of the 4 Nations Olympics, which they've already kind of already told us about, but to get everything kind of queued up and continue to grow the game, which they are now post-COVID, it's great to see. And I think you want to make sure everything is in place to keep that ascend and that growth going with the salary cap, the growth of the game, build on the last 2 or 3 years of great Stanley Cup finals and playoffs. And, the game is in a great spot. The physicality's back in the game, the electricity, the energy, just for a number of years, it was stale, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And now, just the rivalries and the anger and the vitriol that some of these teams and players have for each other. It's awesome. It's great entertainment. It provides great storylines. And I think it just makes for a lot more fun in the game.